In the latest season of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, the plot of the series ties into the real-world events of 2020, where there were wide-scale protests against the police following the George Floyd incident. The event exposed the extent of police brutality and the systemic problems within the law enforcement. In the series, Jake and Rosa respond to these issues in very different ways. Rosa decides to leave the force altogether, but Jake remains within the system. In the first episode of the latest season, Jake shows that he is guilty for staying with the force because he needs the job and appreciates Rosa for taking the brave step of leaving. But Rosa states that both are fighting the problem from different vantage points. That she is fighting the issue as a person who was inside but now an outsider, but Jake has to continue to fight from within. That it is not whether they are in or out that matters, but what they do in whichever environment that they find themselves in that makes all the difference. Both are legit ways of tackling the problem of injustice, and both need different skill sets. The one who leaves has to be more revolutionary in character, willing to accept the disapproval and anger of those within. She should be able to galvanize people of very different views against a common cause and be creative in creating ripples strong enough to shake the institution from outside. The one who stays in, though, has to be more diplomatic in character and should be able to move the system from where it is to where it could be. He should be able to convince the power centers where decisions are made and articulate the change within the existent historical and cultural framework of the institution. On a historical scale, we see this clearly in the 16th and 17th century in Europe during the Protestant Reformation and the Catholic Counter-Reformation movements. The Protestant Reformation gave us revolutionary leaders like Martin Luther, John Calvin, Zwingli, and many others who fought the system from outside. They were immensely creative and dynamic in the way in which they galvanized the people against the corruption of an institution that was older than 1,000 years. But on the other hand, you have immensely charismatic figures like Teresa of Avila, Robert Bellarmine, Ignatius of Loyola, and John of the Cross, who stayed within the institution and fought against many of the same issues the reformers fought against, but without leaving the institutional church. They stayed inside and articulated the changes within the historical, theological, and cultural framework of the institutional church, and their diplomatic actions brought about huge reforms from within. And so we see that both being inside or being outside has its merits. But both these positions have their unique disadvantages too. For example, those who break out of the system continue to break out of whatever system they get into whenever things get difficult. Their resolve to stay and make changes slowly through time is trumped by their resolve to break out and push for immediate changes. The Protestant Reformation, as helpful as it was for its time, continued to protest against each other, leading to thousands of denominations which failed to recognize each other and work with each other. On the other hand, the disadvantages of those who stay within is that they tend to get complacent with the injustices that are happening within the system. There is an inclination to feel that the problem is too deep or too widespread, that their actions have little to no consequences. Hence, they continue with the system because to rock it might be to compromise on their own security.